Okay. So we're with Jessica, and I've been working with Jessica for 6 months doing one-on-one sessions. So Jess, tell me what your relationship was with food and body was like growing up.
I'm one of four girls. I'm the shortest, and I just was never a tiny short girl.
Mhm.
In retrospect, I think I probably was, but from my mother was the only girl with five boys, so she was probably from third grade concerned about my size, and my sisters could eat whatever they wanted, and she always had something to say about me. So um, I think that very early on, I got the impression that, that my worth was very much tied into how I looked on the outside and what I was presenting to the world. And that regardless of my academic success, who
Mhm.
I was as a person, that was always going to be a problem. So I probably started dieting middle schoolish,
Okay.
freshman year, and then I probably spent the next 10, 15 years gaining the same, you know,
Yeah.
10, 20 pounds every year. I'd come home for the summer, I'd lose 20 pounds, and I'd spend the next 8 months putting it back on and do the
Yeah.
whole thing again the next summer.
Totally.
So I continued in getting married and losing the weight for the wedding, and then gaining the weight, and then having a baby, and then so it has been my relationship with food in particular. I would say I always pictured my relationship as with food as more of the problem than the relationship with my body. I wasn't super critical of anything other than that I was bigger than I was supposed to be,
Yeah.
but what I was allowed to eat, binge eating, overeating, like that stuff was, I felt very out of control when it came to food.
Got you. Tell me, what was your breaking point with diet culture? Like, what moved you from deciding, like, I'm done and I need to find another way?
Well, in 2012, I lost about 55 pounds in 6 months, and I thought, this is it. I found it. I'm going to do it. That was primarily calorie counting. I had two
Mhm.
young children, and I had taken up running, and I was only working part time.
Mhm.
So I was cooking breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Mhm.
Um, but counting calories when you're working full time and have two children and is just really not realistic. So as soon as I went back to work full time, I just slowly kept putting on the weight. And then I've tried everything. And when I hit 40, I like just 40 pounds in a year, 40 pounds in 2 years. It was like, I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
And at that point, really, my body was very uncomfortable.
Mhm.
It was getting to the point where I couldn't do the things I wanted to do with my family, and anything dieting was causing like major stress
Mhm.
and obsessiveness, and then disappointment, and all these things. And I was reading and I'm just like, just can't this just can't, like, something I've been doing the same thing for 20 years and it's not working. Why am I
Right.
doing the same thing? Right. In other areas of my life, I would
Right.
say, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over
Right.
again and expecting a different result. So what
Right.
what the hell am I doing? You
Right.
know? And so that's kind of, I was like, I can't live like this.
Yeah.
So what other alternative did I have? You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I get that totally. Tell me a little bit about this experience working one on one these last 6 months and what that has felt like for you.
Well, I will say that if anyone thinks they're going to just work one on one with you, twice a month, then that's going to be enough. There's a lot of work that has to happen outside of the
Yes.
times that, you know, we need.
Correct.
There's a lot of reading, writing, journaling, thought,
Correct.
like you have to be willing to do the work outside of that time.
Yes.
I will say that you have to be prepared that you're going to feel a lot of different ways. Like if you're doing the work, it's not just going to be like magically smooth sailing. You just accept it. Like and you can attest, you know, probably about a month in, I was pretty pissed.
Yeah.
I was angry.
Yes.
I was angry. I was angry that everything I had been told was a lie. I was angry that I had to go through this. I was angry that I had to accept this body, and why did I have to? And I mean, I had all sorts of feels.
Yep.
So I think, you know, have those feelings. And to be really honest, I think, I mean, I probably said things that were pretty contrary to you know, the philosophy of Find Freedom, but like you have to say that. You have to say your true feelings or you can't unpack them and you
Yes.
can't reason through them or whatever. So I think you have to, you know, that takes up some bravery.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think.
Absolutely. What do you think was your biggest aha moment over the last 6 months?
I think the biggest moment for me, and I'm not sure, I mean, that's the thing about this kind of work, right? If we could just literally, it feels when it happens like someone flipped a switch and it's
Yeah.
like, boom. But we don't always know what that switch is. And
Right.
that can be the hard part. Is it's like, we know once we get this, it's going to feel really simple, but getting there is the hard part. And I think for me, it was really like, okay, how would my life change if my body was a different size? Like, in what ways would my life change? And to say it wouldn't change at all maybe is a little, you know, naive, but
Yeah.
would it change in the reasons that are important to me?
Right.
Or would it change in reasons that are important to someone else? And really coming to clarity about, you know what, I actually have this really awesome life, and the people in my life don't give a shit what size my body is.
Yeah.
The people that are important to me,
Right.
right? And so that was a really, really big one with accepting my body, which was one of the hardest things for
Yeah.
me. And the second thing was, of course, I just lost it. The second thing, I don't remember.
Well,
I just had it just in my brain.
I remember that moment when I don't remember if you messaged me or we chatted about it. It was probably both. When you came to the realization, it was like a turning point when you were like,
Yes.
I don't know why I have been so caught up in this when really I have a great life, and like what is going to be different,
Yes.
right? That was an amazing. Tell me what your
Yeah,
relationship
it was special.
tell me your relationship with food now, food and body now.
So like I said, I think I've always, like, I wanted to be smaller, but that's what it was about, movement. I was very adamant that like I could not be healthy at this size, and that like everybody has this size that they past such point they're no longer healthy. And you really challenged me on that. Like, okay, Jess, are you not comfortable walking right now because you're spending your day sitting on the couch? Or are you not comfortable walking because of the size of your body? And it's like, oh shit, yeah, you know. And I have been shocked at the improvement in my physical health without really changing the size of my body. It's been a bit shocking, actually.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't realize, because I would have said that's not possible.
Right.
You know what I mean? I would have said, no, it's my weight and that's why I'm unhealthy and that's what I need to do. So that was another big one. And then I would say, yeah, my biggest obstacle my whole life, you know, sitting down at every meal at every restaurant. What am I going to eat? What am I allowed to eat? How much of it can I eat? Um, what do you mean you don't finish your full plate? Like, you know, um, and that has shifted so much. Like, it's crazy. Like, it doesn't even really seem real. But being able to choose and without thinking about that, being able to stop eating because I'm full, not because I'm only allowed to have half of this cheeseburger, you know what I mean? Like that's that's been a huge shift for me. A big, big shift.
Yeah, I know you
And
said,
interestingly enough, there are things that I don't eat or drink, like that just don't have a hold over me anymore, that I wouldn't have necessarily said were unhealthy. Like I was one of those people, the first thing you did in the morning was make a cup of coffee. You had 2 cups, you know, and I go days without having coffee if I don't feel like it in the morning. It's bizarre.
yeah,
And, you know, the same thing during COVID, I probably was drinking a little more alcohol than normal. And there were a couple times before starting this process with you that I was like, oh, I got to cut back on my drinking. I got to cut. And I would struggle with it. I would really want. And now I'm like, we go out to eat. I don't even have a drink. I'm just like, I just don't. It's so strange.
yeah.
It is
No,
really
I know,
strange.
I know before we started, you said, I just don't, I never thought that like I would be in this position 6 months later thinking like, I like these foods don't, they don't trigger me. I don't care. I stop eating. I don't want this anymore. Like it's just a really, it's an amazing place to be. And I'm so glad that you've been able to like find that place and feel really good about it.
Yeah, it's crazy, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Well, thank you so much.
Uh,